We've got to get bigger. We've got to get stronger. We've got to get more physical in the trenches. And if you want to compete for championships, you have to do that.
He's got that right. The Jaguars definitely have to get bigger and stronger to compete for championships. Generally, when you get to this point of the NFL season, it's the biggest, strongest teams that are competing for that spot to go to the Super Bowl. Jaguars general manager Trent Baalke had his postseason press conference this week, and he was relatively honest. He said they've got to get bigger, stronger, and more physical. You heard it come straight from his mouth. Now, the part that he left off of that is that that's his responsibility. Keep in mind, Trent Baalke has been with this team for, 3 years now as the Jaguars general manager, and if there is a lack of size, speed, and strength, it's because he's brought in some of the wrong players, so that is his job. He understands that there have been some mistakes made and definitely some work to do this offseason. Now, I know Trent Baalke is definitely going to get a bad rap. There's no love lost there between him and the Jaguars fan base, and for some good reason, because, as you heard him, need to get bigger and stronger, and he's the guy who decides what big, strong players they bring onto the Jaguars roster. We'll see what changes he decides to make this offseason as he tries to get the Jaguars to be playing football this time next year. They're not that far off from it. I know it feels like the sky's fallen, but the Jaguars are just a rough December away from being in the postseason and possibly making some noise if they can get bigger and stronger. We'll see what big, strong guys Trent Baalke ultimately decides to bring to Jacksonville, but he needs to make sure that he keeps some of his own guys too. One guy that he has to make sure stays in Jacksonville: Jaguars edge Josh Allen. Josh Allen has been a fantastic player for the Jaguars, set a single-season franchise record for sacks this past year. And Josh Allen, his contract's up in Jacksonville.
Yeah, Josh will be a Jaguar. Okay. Yes, I know Josh wants to be here. I know we want him here. You know, can we come to a number that works for everybody? That's the key, and I respect that. Like I said last year with Evan's situation, you got to respect these guys that put themselves in this position. They work hard. They deserve to make good money. What that good means to them could be different than what it means to us. So we just got to come together, sit down at the table, and work things out.
You like when you hear a guy say that Josh Allen is going to be a Jaguar, because 41 definitely deserves a contract. He wants to be here in Jacksonville and needs to be with the Jaguars next season. I mean, that is non-negotiable as far as I'm concerned. Now, the part that I left off from Trent Baalke was that he hasn't talked to Josh Allen's agent. He hasn't talked to them about that contract, so they haven't even started those discussions. That's not the great part that you want to hear, but there is a baseline. Since Trent hasn't started working on the contract, we can start working on the contract. So Josh Allen has had a fantastic season, a fantastic career. They can start with what Montez Sweat got from the Bears. Now, in their careers, relatively similar numbers. Josh Allen has 45 sacks. Sweat's got 41.5. So Josh has a few more sacks, and Montez Sweat got his deal after being traded midway through the season. Josh Allen has only been with the Jaguars, so maybe he should get a little bit of a raise, because Sweat definitely got a big deal, though, one that Josh Allen and I'm sure his team would love to get. 4 years, $98 million from Chicago. Now, keep in mind, Montez Sweat was traded in the middle of the year to Chicago, so he hadn't been there for very long. The Bears, new player, new team, and they hand him a $98 million deal. Now, as for Josh Allen, on the other hand, he's been with the Jaguars for 5 years. He's had a lot of success. He should get a little bit more than that. Maybe the first $100 million player in Jaguars franchise history, but at the rate that Trent Baalke's moving, it looks a whole lot more like Josh Allen could be getting that franchise tag, which is going to be in the ballpark of 1 year, probably about $20 million. Not bad money there, but definitely not the type of deal that Josh Allen or his people are hoping for. Trent Baalke's got to get to work. He needs to get this long-term deal done, because Josh Allen needs to be in a Jaguars uniform next year, because plain and simple, he's one of the most important pieces on the Jaguars defense that needs to play well next year if the Jaguars are going to get where they're going. And with a new defensive coordinator, Ryan Nielsen should be the first one that should want the Jaguars to get this deal done, because if he's going to put together the type of defense that he's hoping to bring to Jacksonville, he needs Josh Allen on one side of the field getting some sacks. Now, keep in mind, Ryan Nielsen has just got to Jacksonville. The Jaguars officially made the announcement that he is the Jaguars defensive coordinator. So not a whole lot of pull. He doesn't know a whole lot about his personnel yet. But this guy is the perfect hire. If you've been tagging along through our coverage, we've gone through some of the guys that were in the running for the job. And every time I got to Ryan Nielsen, I said, he's a guy that I really like. He did a great job with that Falcons defense last year. Very aggressive bunch, and they didn't have a ton of talent. I could make a solid argument right here that the Jaguars actually have more talent on their roster right now than what Nielsen was working with last year in Atlanta. So he's going to be able to do some good things here in Jacksonville. Now, they do have to add some pieces to the defense to be able to do some of the things that he's going to want to do. Last year with the Falcons, they ran more man coverage than anybody else in the NFL. That's according to NFL's next-gen stats. So Jaguars ran a whole lot of zone. So they're going to have to get some corners in there that can help them run some of the man coverage looks that he likes to run. But I think he's going to do a really good job. Players around the league that he's worked with loved him. He's known as a teacher. And when players rave about you, I think it's going to be a good thing here in Jacksonville. I really like this hire. I think the Jaguars brought in the best candidate for the job. We'll see what he can ultimately do with the Jaguars defense coming up as he starts to get to work. We'll talk all about it on the News for Jags podcast. A new episode came out right after the hire, and we'll have a new episode out this week. You can track down that podcast anywhere that you get your podcast. Make sure you subscribe, or you can track it down over on newsforjags.com. Just click on that handy-dandy sports page. Hey, we still got plenty more of the Sunday Sports Zone coming up. Next, it's time to turn the page and talk some college hoops. We're talking about Florida State and Florida. That's straight ahead when the Sunday Sports Zone returns.